Hey everybody, how's it going? Max and Trev with BuzzTox here, and we're talking everything White Walkers. How's it going, Trev?
Very good, very good. Very excited, man.
Yeah, I am too, man, but let's get right into it. The one thing that fascinates me the most about White Walkers is the fact that it was a first man that was transformed into a different species by the Children of the Forest.
Yeah. So he was like a POW.
Exactly. So what you see in the White Walkers is you see a combination of the children, and you see a combination of a man. For example, we've seen White Walkers are very cultured in the sense that they show the Children of the Forest symbols. We've seen the spiral many times.
Albeit with body parts.
Exactly. They use horse heads. They use bodies. So it's almost like all of these symbols is a form of their origin. It's like their Bible in a sense, but it has to mean something.
Yeah, we can tell the spiral one. We could tell the spiral one is almost exactly the one where the Night's King was sort of created. He was created on what seems to me, at least I don't know if you agree with this, but it looked almost like it could be a graveyard around the tree. So I'm wondering if the culture of the children were to bury their dead in and around the roots and intertwined with the roots of these weirwoods. And he looks like he's on almost like a tombstone that was purposely stuck in the ground near the weirwood. And the symbols that we see in the ice when it seems like it was his group of guys that created it was this spiral.
Yeah, exactly. And they use the dead to create those spirals. And on top of that, they have similar rituals. It's almost like the Night's King has taken some of their culture. If you look at the Children of the Forest when they created the first Night's King, they were all the children were onlooking in the background while Leaf kind of came in and turned him into the White Walker.
Yes.
And if you look at the creation of, them turning that child into a White Walker, it is very similar where, the White Walker treats the baby with care.
Yeah, it's almost like a baptism.
Yeah, and he places the baby in the center of a circle of 10 ice spikes, which is funny because it's the same kind of spikes as the rocks. It's like they recreated that in their culture. And the Night's King comes forward while all the 12 onlookers behind stand and watch. And he goes forward and then converts the baby, which is very similar to the way the children converted him.
Yeah, there's so many, there's a numbers game in there. I was just because you said 12. So there's 12 guys in the background?
Yeah.
Because it's almost like 12 months of the year, right? And then there's always 4, and then there's so many things. There's directions, there's seasons, there's all these different things. So it's almost like they're the wardens of the winter.
Yeah, exactly. And you could say
crazy.
that symbol in the ground is like a calendar. The spiral could be like a representation.
Yeah, very Stonehenge-esque.
Yeah. And they've also added some characteristics that don't come from the children. They travel in packs of 4. Whenever they're on the attack, they travel as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, it seems like.
Yeah, they're very laying that motif on them thickly.
Yeah, and the 4 horsemen represent conquest, war, famine, and death. And which makes sense because they're ice, and wherever they go kind of represents the death, because nothing can survive in icy conditions.
No, and they're dragging a friggin' horde of undead army behind them too, so...
Yeah, and then we've also learned, there are more than 4 White Walkers, but they choose to travel in 4, and when one dies, he's replaced with another. And what I find interesting is the only time they don't travel in a pack of 4 is when they're collecting a baby.
Yeah.
So I think there's something interesting there. It's almost like a strategic use, almost like a stealth, or maybe it's kind of a... I don't even know.
Could be ranks, man. We were talking about ranks, right? Like if that was a lower rank one that was sent to get the baby and bring them back to the 12 generals plus the king, right? And you said they're almost like you said the Night's King in a previous discussion was supposed to be the 13th watcher on the wall from the book versions, right? So he's the 13th. Maybe he has this command structure where there's always 13, and 13's the number, and he always has to replace it. He's obsessed with this tradition because he was human at one point.
Yeah, it seems like he's really pushing his past experiences. And you see the man side of him with infrastructure. If you look at the kind of north of the wall, the kind of city they have, it seems like they have some kind of infrastructure. you can see a bridge, and you can see kind of some structure carved into the ice and the rocks.
Yeah, which just supports again the fact that they're probably the ones that built that wall, or at least had a hand in it.
Yeah, like the children lived under a tree, whereas they seem to be carving out their own home and their own infrastructure, which kind of relates them more to man in that sense.
Yeah.
But also we've seen them use strategy. They use strategy really well. Like a White Walker in the first episode cuts off a crow's head and throws it to the other guy, almost to send him a warning and to get him to go tell the others. And, you know, White Walker spares Sam. And right when Sam was spared, he stumbles across a man holding his own head. Almost like he wanted Sam to see that, and he wants Sam to go push that message forward that they mean business.
Yeah, it's like intimidation tactics that they would use in old wars.
Yeah, so I think, you know, all of these little factors kind of come together to prove that they're not just a weapon. They are cultured. They've been alive for 8,000 years. And I think they've really grown to be their own species. That's why the children has had a problem with them in the first place.
Yeah, they're too powerful.
Yeah, and they've turned on their creators, and now they're their own culture and their own species. And I think that's dangerous because now we're learning more and more about their abilities and what they can do. And, you know, they were created by something so magical like the children of the forest, but yet the first men, they have abilities of their own, like warging and greensight, which we can see in Bran and a lot of other Stark men and Northern men, because the first men blood really runs in their veins. So the White Walkers can, first of all, they can reanimate the dead. So, and that is anything, right?
Yeah, so far we've seen horses and man.
We've seen horses and man, but I think that goes to many other things. However, I'm going to say that we're not going to be seeing White Walkers on spiders.
No, too much.
I feel like it doesn't work out, and I think it is a bit cheesy.
Yeah, it's hard to pull off a spider.
Yeah, I think so too. And
especially giant ones.
Yeah, and we've seen them destroy steel because they're so cold they can shatter it. We've seen them break ice in the ground. And I think there's a really important ability other than manipulating ice, is that I believe that they have the ability to warg and to use greensight. And I think it's only fitting because they were created from first men and they could have that ability. And you could argue that them resurrecting everything that's dead, you could say that the Night's King is actually warging.
Yeah, it's like a hybrid form of warging.
It's like a different kind of warging. It's almost like another level of warging, where you can take something that's not alive and convert them and warg into them. Because their eyes change color into him, almost like he's looking through their eyes.
Yeah, because they all have the same look, not just their eyes, but they're all fixed on what he's looking at.
On what he wants, yeah, and they do what he wants. And their eyes are just, they become his. So I think that's really
cool.
interesting. And what that shows is that if he can use warging and greensight like Bran, then that becomes dangerous, because Bran, when he went into the tree and the Night's King saw him and marked him, that shows that the Night's King is on another plane of existence to be able to see Bran, who wasn't even a physical figure.
Well, see, this is what we were sort of touching on, what we were talking before. And I've came up with this idea, even just tonight, that they have some sort of ability with, well, we know they have ability with ice, but more so, I think, the Night's King specifically has such a handle on ice that he can communicate across ice. Meaning, all the weirwoods that we've seen so far with him in it have been frozen or frosted or permafrost. So what if he doesn't need to touch the roots in order to access the power of the weirwood trees? He just has to be touching ice. And we also have proof of this because at Hardhome, that whole army was just resurrected with a flick of his wrist. And it was all because they were all frozen on the ground. Maybe he has this ability to warg because he has complete control over the ice and is able to sort of spread his power through the ice, just like Bran through the roots of the weirwood tree.
Yeah, like you could say, like he's really powerful because the roots of the weirwood tree are actually connected to ice, which is him.
Yeah.
And then he can kind of interact with that just because it's surrounded in ice.
And strategically, they're going to be moving south because ice is going to be everywhere. Right. So they just waited in slumber, if you will, for the perfect opportunity when shit hits the fan and ice is everywhere as far south as King's Landing, right?
Yeah, and I think we've seen other examples of this. For example, like when Sam is with the baby and the White Walker comes to take the baby. I've always said that all the crows in that scene are there to warn John that a White Walker is coming, because the three-eyed raven is watching John, or Sam, sorry. And it shows Sam's importance because the three-eyed raven is watching over him. But how did the White Walker find him? I think he found him because the weirwood tree was there.
Yeah,
And
it was fixed upon him, right?
Yeah, and it was fixed upon Sam, and in the show they really wanted to show that the weirwood tree was there. So I think the three-eyed raven was watching him, but I also think the Night's King was watching him.
He was tapping that line.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be the constant fight. And now there's going to be not only physical battles, but there's also going to be mental battles between Bran and the Night's King in this kind of underground other reality.
Yeah, like these psyops.
Yeah, so I think it's really going to be crazy to see. And I think Bran is going to learn his ability almost to block out the Night's King. And maybe he's going to try and learn more. And maybe even try and communicate with the Night's King.
Yeah. Like,
you know,
find out what he's about. We were talking about it before. Do you think the Night's King will be able to speak like English or like common tongue?
I think he can. I think he could. Yeah. I think everyone communicates with like shattering ice, but I think the Night's King specifically can communicate in English.
Yeah. Good. Well, he was a man at one point, so it would be interesting to see. Like, I don't think the other knights, or the other whites, I guess, would be able to talk, but I think him specifically would be able to talk.
Yeah, but Bran is the key to learning their motive, and then he is the key to sharing that motive with Jon and all the others.
Yeah, I think he's just gonna bridge the gap there. Like, hey, I can kind of communicate with these guys. We have to sort of sort this out because it's not gonna end well for either side.
So that goes over to the White Walkers are more than just killing machines, but what do they want then? What do they desire? What are they pursuing?
That's like we're missing the key there.
Like, do they want to just, like, stay alive as a species? Because they keep wanting to go for Craster's babies. They want to stay alive. Do they just want to live?
Yeah, but I feel like it's a tough sell for them to, like, just survive. Because they really seem like they're mobilizing.
And the problem with that is they're reliant on humans for their survival. We've seen no female White Walkers.
Yeah, but it's like maybe because they come out in these winters, because winter is such a desperate time where people would like give up their children in order to like survive. You know what I mean? Like it's such a desolate time, and they're 100% mobilizing. Like they have armor and stuff like that. It's not like they're just roaming around.
Yeah.
Like they're gearing up for a war.
Yeah, or it could be they want, a world of ice. They want to live just amongst their own people, and they don't have to worry about, the children. They don't have to worry about the humans. They just have to worry about, themselves.
Yeah, expanding their kingdom.
I think it's possible that they may want to, a side motive, maybe they want to destroy their own history. You disagree with me, but I think, they might be going around wanting to destroy these weirwood trees. Because to me, we see Bran in the weirwood tree, and then he kind of phases back to the weirwood tree where the first Night's King was created. And it was destroyed.
Yeah, see, I take it as those weirwood trees just look kind of a little worse for wear because it's winter where they are. Like, the trees die in the winter anyways. Their leaves are all gone, and they're hung over branches because there's so much ice in it. And I feel like you could have seen, he almost told the army not to go near it. Like, he was like, it was almost precious to him. Like, don't step on my shit. This is where I was born. Right? Yeah. Like he was almost seemed like he was coming back from there, as if he was visiting like a gravesite. I am of the feeling that he's more nostalgic to the weirwood trees, and he uses them to his advantage. Whereas like it seems maybe like for your side because they went into the other one, but I think they had to get Bran out of there because he was in his head.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that the Night's King, I believe he has that ability, and I think, he could want to destroy the weirwood trees, but they also make him powerful. Yeah,
like what would he get out of destroying them? Unless he destroys them so Bran can't use them. But I think that he uses them too, but in a different way.
Exactly,
with the ice.
Yeah, so that takes me to my main belief, is that they really just are coming south because something was broken. They made an agreement 8,000 years ago when the war was over, and something has changed, which has made them not happy and want to come south and fight. The only thing I can think of is really the start of the show. Magic has been introduced to the show. We start the show with White Walkers killing humans, so I wonder why that is. And then, dragons were born later that season. So I'm wondering why they would want to come south. Like,
Yeah, it's like, well, we don't even really know if they're only really coming south in their region. It's not like they've made a charge on the wall yet. We get way too many hints that they're coming south, so we just assume it. But their patterns of movement above the wall have been sort of all over the place. Like, they come down to Frostfangs, they move over to Hardhome. The one guy grabs the baby from Craster's Keep and goes all the way up to wherever that ice castle is. So it just seems like they're mobilizing. So I think they were trying to get rid of the last contingent of children that were up there. Right. And that was the last thing that was in their way, and maybe they're looking for the key to sort of get through that wall, and Bran might have that. So maybe there was like a truce, how we were talking. Maybe they built the wall, and there's a magical protection on the wall that was sort of like a two-key system in a nuclear situation where two sides have to agree upon it for it to come down. And with the killing of Leaf and Bran eventually going to go through this wall with his mark might be the key to bringing down that wall again.
Yeah, and I find it interesting, they're weak to everything dragon.
Well, fire.
They're weak. Well, the whites are weak to fire, but
Yeah.
not the White Walkers. The White Walkers and the Night's King can walk through fire. But however, I think the fire that they are weak to is dragon fire.
Yeah, if they got blasted with dragon fire, I think they would be dead.
Wildfire, anything that's dragon related. Valyrian steel kills them, we know that, and dragon glass kills them, we know that. So maybe the feeling of dragons being brought into this world makes them angry. I found it fascinating how Sam found dragon glass buried in the snow over the wall.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like that was a part of the contingent, right?
I know, they keep their own weakness. So the humans don't have dragon glass. The White Walkers take it and they keep it buried on their side, even though you can create dragon glass on the other side. And Dragonstone has a bunch of dragon glass anyway, but I just found that interesting.
Yeah, but at the same time, I didn't really touch this in the show, but the children were giving an arms, like they were arms dealing with the what's it called, the Night's Watch, because they were giving them sort of a stock of spearheads and arrowheads of dragon glass, right? Almost like, oh my god, we're so sorry we created these beasts. Here's some weapons that if they ever come close, you can sort of fight them off. And in the book, that starts to dwindle. So it's almost like this is sort of helping my argument with, I think he's going around killing any children that are left up there, saying that's it. Like, these guys are the ones that are holding us back here.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I don't think that he thinks humans are a threat at all until he saw Jon and maybe Sam now.
Yeah.
So that like, other than that, I don't know if he knows about the dragons. It's too far down. Well, I guess if he could warg, he could see a lot of shit. Or I don't even know what you call what Bran does. Like, what do we call when he's in the Weir Tree?
It's green sight when he's seeing in the future and in the past.
Okay, so green sight. So he's got to have a little bit of that.
Yeah, so that'd be really interesting, and we would see, let's use our green sight and try to see what happens in the future of Game of Thrones. In season 6, I think we both agree it's the last season for political intrigue.
This one coming, you mean season 7?
Or season 7, sorry, yes.
Yeah, I think this is it. Cersei's the last political villain, is she not? Like Cersei and crew? Who else is there a political villain, right?
Yeah,
everybody's coming Westeros side.
Yeah, once they're all dead, and by the end of season 7, they're all going to be dead, and it's going to be a focus on the wall. I think what's going to happen is Bran is going to learn about the White Walkers. That's how we're going to see them. We're going to be learning more about their culture through Bran. But then Bran, I think, is going to get a vision, and he's going to want to flee the Weirwood Tree. And I think the result of him going through the wall will destroy the magic.
Yeah.
I think it's inevitable. I think they've been leading up to it. And I think either the wall will come down immediately because maybe magic is holding the wall up, or it'll just destroy the magical barrier, and the Night's King will come up and use his ice manipulation ability and just destroy the hell out of it.
Yeah. It could be that he's trying to look for things that are making him more powerful, but it seems like he's pretty goddamn powerful as is.
Yeah, but now that the wall is destroyed and we go into season 8, I think, there's 2 factors to look at when you're thinking about what's going to happen at the end of Game of Thrones. There's how far do the White Walkers go? Do they go all the way through Westeros? Or do they only make it to, the north and they get kind of stopped there? And the other question is, are the White Walkers hostile? Are they a mindless weapon, or are they a civilized race like what we've been talking about?
Well, there's argument for both sides. Like when they're goal oriented, they don't care about killing. They push Sam out of the way to get the baby. It wasn't like they needed Sam dead to get him out of his way. They just wanted the baby.
That's a good point.
Right? So it's like, what is their... As soon as we find out their goal, we'll know more on the other side of it. Like, are they just going to kill everybody? Or do they need something... Like, what are they looking for? What is it that is driving them? Is all we need to know at this point. Because I think that would fill in such a huge gap on what we're missing here.
That's a great point. They kill to achieve their goal. That one White Walker only set out to get that baby, not to raise another white.
Yeah, and the other ones killed the 2 guys of the Night's Watch and spared the other guy so he could live to tell the tale.
Yeah, so everything that they do is to, strategically push their motive.
Yeah.
I personally think that it's going to be a fight for the wall or a fight for the north, mainly. I think they're going to be fighting for Winterfell. I think that's really where the story's going to end. I don't know if you disagree with me. Do you think that it's going to end at Winterfell, or do you think it's going to end, like, kind of in Westeros?
I think, like, Westeros, or, like, the rest of Westeros is sort of, like, done after the season. Like, we're not going to see much of it because it's... we know this is sort of going on a tangent, but we know she's not gonna go down lightly, and that's why we saw the vision in Daenerys's dream state of the I guess the hall, the grand hall where the throne is. It was all destroyed, right? Now we could say what destroyed it, whether the White Walkers because there was snow, but there was all this symbolism shrouded in that whole scene. I think she's gonna blow the shit up. I thought she was gonna blow the shit up this season. So now that we know all that dragon fire is under there, or wildfire, whatever you want to call it, I think she's just gonna go down in a blaze of glory. So I don't see it going that far south. And what really strongly points to this is that the only weirwood left south of the wall is inside the walls of Winterfell.
Yes.
So Bran's gonna be there. That's gonna be his last.
I think that's where he's going to set up camp. Yeah.
Right? Where else can he go? Like, it's the perfect spot. He's protected with walls, and he's got a weirwood tree he can tap into at any time.
Exactly. That's why I think the story is going to be defend Winterfell, defend Bran, defend the tree. The one thing about King's Landing is that, everyone says that, it could be ash, it could be snow. I definitely believe it is snow. But see, why would their snow be that far south if the White Walkers are still north?
Well, no, it's that, like, winter's coming. I don't know enough about the universe if the winter goes all the way to Dorne. Like, does Dorne get snow on a long night situation?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, right? If it's like the tropics and it doesn't ever get cold down there, then it would probably only come down past River Run.
Yeah, but I think, the fight's really going to take place there. It's going to start at the wall. It's going to come back, and I think the finale is really going to be defending Winterfell. And I think, I do believe in the 3 heads of the dragon. I think Jon, Daenerys, and Tyrion are going to be the dragon riders. But however, I don't think it's going to last long.
No.
I think, Jon is just as much of a Targaryen as Daenerys. And Tyrion, whether you say he's the Mad King's son or not, he has proven that he has a relationship with Rhaegal and Viserion in Season 6.
Big time.
So I think that proves that, we could get some dragon riders here.
I really hope not, but yeah.
I think, I think it's coming. But, and then you also have ice versus fire. You have red witches who can resurrect people like Melisandre. You have dragons, which can just fry the White Walkers. And you have Targaryens themselves, which, sometimes they have a magical ability in their core almost, because they have an attraction to dragons. and also some of them are unburnt. White Walkers, however, they have the power of ice, so they can use green sight and warg, kind of like the Starks. And the Starks have, that kind of ability too. So, and I feel like this fight will be very kind of one-sided. It seems like the dragons will trump pretty much everything because it's like an aerial strike.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. So my theory about them having manipulation over the ice is that if any of those dragons touch ice, maybe they could bolster something up. But they fly, so
yeah. So they could create. Who knows? They could create a shield out of the ground. Like you never know. But I think,
or like spikes that fly up from the ground, like we've seen in their altar.
Yeah, exactly. And what I think is, the most significant thing in the fight is that George R.R. Martin wrote this thing about an ice dragon, and everyone said there's going to be an ice dragon like in the wall. There's not going to be an ice dragon in the wall. I think Drogon is going to get killed. And I think the Night's King is going to resurrect Drogon as, an ice dragon in a sense. Yeah. It's an undead dragon, and it will become an ice dragon. And I think what's interesting with this idea is that, Bran was told, you will not walk again, but you will fly. And I was convinced, I'm like, perfect. He's going to fly. He's going to warg into Rhaegal and Viserion because they're going to have an issue with Daenerys because Daenerys locked them away.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out that didn't happen. And they are, loyal to Daenerys. So why do you need to warg into these dragons? Because they refuse to fight their brother Drogon.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that theory.
So I think Bran is going to have to warg into Daenerys' dragons to fight Drogon, who is resurrected, because the dragons won't fight their alpha brother.
Yeah, and I hope it's more like that because it would really bother me to see Tyrion hop up on a dragon.
It would be kind of silly.
It would kill it for me. And I think it's almost like they know that too. So I feel like he would be like the ultimate dragon trainer where he could do like commands from the ground and it would follow his lead.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's like then Bran could, like, you get a scene where he's not following the command to fight the frost dragon and Bran has to step in there and work.
Yeah, and what I find, fascinating is that we're going to have this huge battle, but I think it's going to end with diplomacy. And I think you need, Azor Ahai, that savior. And it's believed that, there may not be one savior. There may be three saviors, which could be Daenerys, Tyrion, Jon. Jon is the savior.
100%.
100%. He is the Song of Ice and Fire. And it wouldn't surprise me if, Jon might have a connection with this ice dragon Drogon. Because he is everything ice and fire. Let's go back in history. There's myth in an ancient story told in Game of Thrones lore that the 13th Lord Commander met a White Walker woman from beyond the wall. And granted, they didn't call her White Walker woman. They said she had blue eyes. She had a very White Walker-esque appeal. And this is just a story. And he fell in love with her, and they ruled the wall together. And they ruled a certain way, and she kind of changed his perspective on multiple things. And that is Jon's story. He is the Lord Commander. He went over the wall and he fell in love with the enemy. And it changed his perception of what the wildlings were.
Yeah.
And it changed who he was. And, even after that, he said that he will never kneel to a king again.
Who decides? I suppose Stannis does. You're king now. I don't have a king. You spend too much time with us, Jon Snow. You can never be a kneeler again.
He took some of the wildling values, which I think is really important. And I think that shows who Jon is. Jon has lived his life through looking at all perspectives.
Like he's sort of been put in these situations where he's had to see it from both sides.
Yeah, exactly. And he's always had to see, both perspectives. He settled the dispute he tried to save the wildlings, even though he was a brother of the Night's Watch. And I think this whole story arc for Jon is to realize that the White Walkers actually aren't all bad. The Night's King isn't all that bad. And I think Bran will come at him with certain information, telling them what they want. And I think Jon will realize that they're more than just a mindless weapon. And I've said since our first video, like a year ago, Jon is going to have a dispute with Daenerys. I think Daenerys is going to come over and they're going to be fighting, and Daenerys is going to want to go to the wall and just burn everything.
Mm-hmm.
Just genocide the hell out of all these White Walkers and
Maybe
destroy.
after they kill her dragon.
Yeah, and destroy all of them. But Jon will say, like, no, like, you can't do that. This is a race. You can't destroy them. He'll understand the other side, and Daenerys will refuse to, because she'll say, we don't want to have, these White Walkers lingering over my people. I want to save my people. And I think Jon will make a tough decision, and I think Jon will kill Daenerys. And I'm convinced Daenerys is going to die no matter what, whether Jon does it or if he doesn't, if he does it or not. Because in season 2, we see her, tell me if you agree, but she walks out into the wall. She walks out to the wall. And she's there, she's cold, and then she sees a hut. She walks in, and it's her family. So I took that as, okay, she's dying at the wall. She's gonna...
Yeah, it was like a premonition of her death.
Yeah, like she's gonna go to the wall, and guess what? She's gonna see her family again. And that's the arc of Daenerys. And I think Jon's the one to do it, because Jon wants to bring peace in the realm, not destroy a whole race of species.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's a really strong theory, because it's like everyone knows now it's Jon. There's no way they're pulling another one after the dramatic killing him off and then dramatic resurrecting him. He's obviously the one to do this. It's just how it all plays out. Like, these guys still could be sort of the Terminators in this whole thing, but I still think that theory holds true, and they're gonna have to like be kind of put back from where they came from, not maybe destroyed. You know what I mean? I don't think they will be able to be destroyed. I think, like you said, they'll come up with this truce or compromise from whatever they want. There's something obviously powerful that they want, and maybe it is Daenerys, like her the dragon thing, right? Because the dragons is the thing that could keep these guys down.
Yeah, exactly.
So if it's like, I need to give your dragons to them for us to have peace, then she wouldn't like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think it'll be really interesting. I think Jon is definitely the one to bring peace. He's not going to defeat the White Walkers. I think he's going to sign an agreement, and it'll be a bittersweet ending, because I think we're gonna end in winter. We're gonna end with the ramifications of the fight and just kind of picking up the pieces after the end.
Well, it just seems like another age of heroes is coming, right? Like, as soon as this season passes, Cersei's dead. Whatever happens to King's Landing happens to King's Landing. We're just gonna have all the people that we love still, with one cause. Like, you're gonna have all the people that are just all in, like, it's gonna be so crazy. Like, if you think about it, they're all gonna be in the same room talking about, like, fighting these things.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of crazy to think about.
And I think the majority are going to die, and it wouldn't surprise me if they were brought back. And you'd have to have, you'd see Jon having to fight Brienne of Tarth because she was killed and resurrected. So I think it's going to be a lot of drama there to see these lifeless characters that we've grown to love.
Yeah, but like, I could see it on both sides. I could see like heroes dying and then be resurrected on the battlefield by red priestess and priests. Like, it's crazy. Really is crazy.
It'll be insane, but there is so much that I think we only scratched the surface. So I think you can expect more White Walker and definitely more Game of Thrones predictions from us.
Yeah, like I could go on forever for this stuff.
I know, it's crazy, but we'll be back with another video coming up soon. Take care, guys.
See ya.